This video will be covering how to easily create multiple OpenShift clusters in a Fusion HCI box using advanced cluster management and OpenShift virtualization technology from Red Hat. As part of the cluster creation steps, Fusion Data Services will be automatically installed, giving you a fully functional OpenShift cluster within 15 minutes, complete with OpenShift Data Foundation storage capabilities and backup restore protection. To get started, first go to the Advanced Cluster Management screen in the OpenShift user interface. Then select Infrastructure, Clusters, Create Cluster. The option you're going to want is OpenShift Virtualization, which will create a hosted control plane pods on the Fusion HCI cluster and VMs for the worker nodes. Once you're in the Create Cluster Details page, the first field is Infrastructure Provider Credential. This contains the pull secret that entitles you to OpenShift on your hosted cluster. You should also include your IBM entitlement key to ensure the automatic deployment of Fusion services is successful. Now fill in the cluster name, then select the release image. With the introduction of ACM 210, you can now select to create a new cluster with either OpenShift 414 or OpenShift 415. Next is the etcd storage class. This is the one that will be used for the control pods on your HCP cluster. The LVM storage cluster that was created as part of the Fusion prerequisites allows for highly available fast storage for the control pods. Use the LVM storage class that was created. By default, this is LVMS-HCP-etcd. Additional labels is the field where you fill in the Fusion services to be automatically deployed onto your cluster. For any Fusion services to be installed, the Fusion base label should be added. If storage for PVCs is desired on the new cluster, then Fusion Data Foundation should be added as well. Finally, if backup restore protection is desired, then the Fusion backup label should be added. Once all the labels are added, you can select Next and go to the Node Pools page. On the Node Pool page for Virtualized Cluster, give the node pool a name. The number of node pool replicas indicate how many virtual worker nodes will be created. Modify the other specifics to meet your requirements. Select Next, review your details, and create your cluster. At this point, you have completed all the steps necessary from the ACM UI to have a new cluster available. The amount of time a cluster creation takes and the installation of Fusion services can range from 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the current load of the Fusion HCI OpenShift cluster. Once the cluster is fully created, including nodes, you can find the credentials to your cluster in the ACM UI. The console URL provides a convenient link to use, and the cubeadmin password is available on the same screen. Now I am going to log in to the new cluster and check on the progress of the IBM Fusion installation. The Fusion installation operator will first install base Fusion, then Fusion Data Foundation, and finally backup restore data protection. Once Fusion all the services are installed, we can verify from the new cluster's Fusion UI. At this point, the cluster is ready to use with all the Fusion services. Logged into our new cluster's OpenShift console, we're going to create a new project. Then we're going to add a new secret. We will finally add a new PVC using the storage class provided by Fusion Data Foundation. With the new PVC created and bound, we will leave our newly created cluster and go back to the Fusion HCI cluster. Once on the Fusion HCI cluster, we will log into the Fusion UI to begin a backup of our new application on the new HCP cluster. The initial topology section shows our new cluster has been automatically connected to the Fusion HCI Hub cluster. To begin a backup, we will first create a backup storage location to store our backups into. With the backup storage location added, we now need to create a policy for our backups. We're going to add a policy. We're going to give the policy a name, And then we're going to also state the frequency at which we want these backups to run. And finally, what is our backup location? It will be object storage, and we're going to select the location that we used previously. We will also add a retention period to decide how long to keep these backups around. Now that we have a backup policy created, we're going to add our application from our new cluster into the backup policy. So we're going to go into the backed up applications, and we can select our application by cluster. So we'll select a cluster, and we see our new cluster there, and then we see our new application. We're going to add this to our backup policy. There's our new policy, and we're going to go ahead and assign it. Since we left the backup now enabled, a backup of our application will automatically be started. We can view the progress of this under the jobs. Viewing the jobs progress, we can see the inventory, including our new secret, the PVC. We can also see the sequence in which the backup is being done and what stage it is at. With the backup job complete, we can now restore this application to any cluster that is in our topology. So we're going to select the new cluster. You can see that we're going to select our Fusion HCI cluster, and then we will select the backup that we wish to restore. And we're going to restore everything, all the resources and the PVCs. Now the restore job will start. Just as with the backup job, we can see in the restore job all the stages of the restore as it happens. Once this restore job is complete, we can take a look at our application on our Fusion HCI cluster. Once the restore is now complete, we can verify on our Fusion HCI cluster that the project that we created on our new HCP cluster is indeed on this cluster as well. It will also have the secret and the PVC that we created. With this demonstration, you can see just how easy it is to carve your Fusion HCI up into multiple clusters through the Create Cluster wizard and have Fusion services automatically installed without ever having to log into your new virtualized cluster. You can simply create a cluster and start using it without needing to set up additional storage or data protection on it.